To order the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of September 20th. We begin with public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to the commission, an item not on the agenda, may do so now. Having no speaker slips or no one standing, I will close public comment, moving on to the approval of the minutes of the September 6th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any corrections or comments? Commissioner Arias.
I believe you have a correction in the minutes.
Yes, but I don't have it noted.
Put your microphone on.
Go ahead.
Okay, what we had discussed regarding the significant tree on page 11, item number 3. It states that a landscape element in the northeast corner. And my recollection is Commissioner Vena insisted that it be a significant.
For clarity, I'd like to see a large specimen, like a 60-inch box or something like that. Tree. In other words, as big as we can get in there. Because that tower is going to be there for a long time. And
So the landscape element, and then parentheses, a large specimen box, 60-inch box tree.
A large specimen, 60-inch.
Box tree.
species to be decided
Yep.
and reviewed.
Decide,
And reviewed,
decided and reviewed, or to be provided and reviewed.
yes.
Okay.
Provided for review.
Okay.
Got it. I think. Okay, thank you. Anything else? I do on page 6. In the motion, item 4, in the motion, item paragraph 2, I think we should provide a reason why we made that determination. So add, as it is not visible from the public. So we don't get a, you did it there. Okay, any other? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain?
Abstain.
Grumbine abstains. Motion carries.
Suding steps down on item 5, or abstains from item 5, excuse me.
Our next item is the consent calendar.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Chair. I guess I also need to step down on F since it was up full. Okay, thank you. Beg your pardon.
No problem. The consent calendar, Pilar?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All items were reviewed today by Commissioner Mahan and Commissioner Vena. Item A, 125 State Street, received approval of review after final. Item B, 1034 Santa Barbara Street, received project design approval and final approval. Item C, 2925 Paseo del Refugio, was postponed 2 weeks at the applicant's request. Item D, 206 East Victoria Avenue, received project design approval and final approval, with comment that materials should match existing. Item E, 33 East Cannon Perdido Street, was postponed indefinitely at the applicant's request. Item F, 663 Del Park Drive, received project design approval and final approval. Item G, 329 East Cannon Perdido Street, was continued 2 weeks. Item H, 201 West Carrillo Street, received project design approval. And item I, 217 Helena Avenue, received project design approval and final approval.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to postpone items C and E?
So moved.
I heard House first, Mahan second. This was reviewed by Commissioners Mahan and Vena. Thank you, gentlemen. Can I have a motion to ratify the consent calendar?
Make a motion to ratify the consent calendar of September 20th, 2017.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries. announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two announcements. One was regarding the appeal hearing for 1809 Mira Vista Avenue that was heard by City Council on September 12th. It was heard on the consent agenda, and as I'm sure most of you read the staff report, it was a settlement between the appellant and the property owner. The City Council accepted the revised changes and the addendum to the historic structures report. So that's done for that for now.
Before you move on,
Yes.
I asked on 3 occasions for a copy of that, that staff report, and I did not receive it. I'm rather upset that I didn't receive it, and that staff negotiated a settlement that was contrary to what this commission decided, and decided based on a staff report from the city historian that moving the garage forward was not consistent with historic resource. I'm very upset. I'd like that passed on to your supervisor.
Absolutely.
And before the next time that happens, that I should be notified. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make a comment about that, and I will definitely pass it along to Renee Brooke.
Pass it on to Irma, please.
To
Mrs.
Irma
Weta.
Zweta. The staff report that was submitted was finalized days prior. Really, it was just the Wednesday
It could have been
prior.
emailed to me.
So it wasn't completed. The version that I started on wasn't the one that was based on the settlement. The settlement happened days prior to the hearing. So
Mr. Chair, I don't understand what's going on. What happened here?
so throughout the last couple months since the appeal was filed, the appeal was not dropped, but the appellant and the property owner were trying to come to some kind of conclusion, and they really let staff know very late in the game as far as what those revisions would be.
What were the revisions? I mean,
So-
what happened?
The attorneys requested from our city attorney that they move the house about a little, the garage a little forward of the house is about 5 feet.
A
And
little forward
yeah,
is 5
5
feet.
feet. And they wanted it to be approved on council, on consent. And the attorney looked up the ordinance, and a council can approve a structures report and plans. And so it went to them on consent, the plans and the structures report.
It helps to hire the former city attorney then, doesn't it?
Well,
It was-
the commission specifically reviewed moving the garage forward, and we're not in favor of that. So
Right.
you're saying council went against commission's wishes, and were they aware of our desire not to move the garage
It was
forward?
in the council agenda report.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Suding. So in the council agenda report, it said what the changes were. Yes, it was moving 5 feet forward. It was kept subservient to the main facade of the house, which was explicitly expressed by the HLC that they wanted it to be kept subservient. But that was one of the changes. So.
I cry foul.
We discussed that, and,
Yeah.
and we definitely said it was not acceptable as a solution.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mahan.
My recollection is that the commission agreed that it wasn't acceptable because Nicole said that that was a defining feature of the street elevation, that the garage was behind the main facade. Nicole, this is what you told us.
Yes.
And we supported you on that.
Right.
And then staff changed their opinion without coming back to the commission.
It wasn't done
Or
on
letting the
staff
commission know.
level.
So this actually brings up a bigger question, which I have. So basically, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this as well. So basically, as it currently works in situations like this, because I could see something like this exact same situation happening, and them coming up with a solution on the spot that we didn't even consider. And so the real question becomes, in this case, in this particular case, we actually considered the exact solution and we were against it. But in this and other cases, what happens when, is what you're saying is, once it gets to that level, they can make the decisions and they kind of ignore or not bring HLC into
This
it?
was
Or
different than any appeal we've had.
Okay.
So usually if they come to a new agreement, the appeal would be withdrawn, it would come back to HLC.
Oh, okay.
Their attorney requested that it not come back to HLC and be heard at council. We called our attorney, we had never had that situation, and I think it was because they were saying if they were going to go to court if anything didn't go their way.
If it didn't go that way.
The complications are, as they said, if council
And
upholds
so
HLC.
So council caved.
So I
Staff
do
caved.
want to
They rattled their sabers.
say that it wasn't the exact proposal you saw before. They had changed some things, but our city attorney, it ended up being really just all between our city attorney and their attorneys, and it was not much
And
of
I
stuff.
suggest you send the city attorney down here, and he can sit in
Speak
his
up.
chair.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair,
I'm really upset. This
Mr.
is
Chair.
not acceptable,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair,
Ms. Reyes.
thank you. I assume I'm on. I hope. I would suggest that we not only ask the city attorney to come, but also we ask the council liaison person to come for a conference regarding this matter, because where things may have been settled now, it could occur again in the future. And we need to know exactly how everybody is going to be on board and how it's going to be dealt with. This was a very upsetting situation, having the attorney stand up and literally, without being on the, with the matter being closed and we in discussion and setting up a motion, him standing there saying, you do this. And I think we need to have some advice from the city council liaison and also from the city attorney. So I would suggest that they be informed that we want to have a discussion about this matter.
And I don't know, to sort of second that, Mr.
I'm not making a motion.
Yeah, but just to sort of.
I got you, Mr.
Not to second it in that way.
Support that,
Support that. The third it.
I've already lectured, sorry.
So, to kind of to add to that, I mean, it's very obvious now that if any smart lawyer is going to know that all they have to do now is say they're going to go to trial, and they're going to get
Whatever they want.
decisions outside of HLC's review or any other body's review, and they can just start threatening that way. So, in a big way, I think this is kind of opening
Precedent.
ourselves up. And so, I don't know who the right person to be, how we would go about having this conversation.
I will take it up with both the mayor
Yeah,
and.
because this is precedent setting.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, I appreciate you wanting to have discussion, but I think it has to be in the public, in front of all of us, so we all
Well,
know
before we
that
have
we're
a
not
discussion.
wasting our time.
I mean, we need to agendize it really before we can have a discussion. And I would like it put on our next agenda, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
It's not a motion.
motion.
It's
Let's
just
do
a
it
request
anyway.
from staff. A
Mr.
motion
Chair?
is not required.
Mr. Chair?
So we will discuss this at our next meeting, please.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm equally upset, maybe not equally, but I'm in that ballpark, and I think that what it points to is that we're either a commission and we make important decisions, or we're not.
Right.
And if you can just go to city council and make a bunch of noise, especially with the former city attorney on your side, then it makes everything we do irrelevant. And I don't think that anybody who formed the commission would consider this body irrelevant.
That's right, it's precedent setting.
Yes.
We spent a lot of time on that project.
Yes.
And it seems that it was,
It's 1809 Mira Vista Avenue.
I mean, we did a site visit. We reviewed it.
Story polls.
We did story polls, we did a
mean-
site visit, we bent over backwards to accommodate an irate neighbor.
And I just feel like council slapped us in the face.
Yes.
Absolutely. So those comments will be passed along, and
My
I will-
apologies for the
yes,
anger, but
absolutely. Yes. Okay. On another note, so
you now know what's my trigger is. Okay.
One of them.
Let's move on.
I have one additional announcement regarding the draft accessory dwelling unit ordinance. It went to Planning Commission and it was not approved. It was continued indefinitely. They had a lot of questions for staff regarding the ordinance, a lot of the conditions that were being incorporated into it. So the next step for staff is to bring that to City Council, not for approvals, but for initiation prior to returning to Planning Commission. This will likely be late November, early December, and staff will keep you informed as to what date that is so you can attend that City Council meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Give me a
Yes.
second. I have a question. What does initiation mean?
It just means that they are in the works of producing the ordinance so that they can move forward. They're not
they're just
adopting the ordinance.
They're just
No.
authorizing.
They're just
continued
authorizing them to continue with it. Correct.
Since this is, give me a second. Since this is being delayed, I have fielded requests from commissioners that they wish to also review this document in its current form before it gets any more modifications.
Absolutely. So I can pass it along to the staff that is producing the accessory dwelling
That's
unit
a very
ordinance and
firm
see
request of the commission.
absolutely and see if they're willing to bring it back. Yes.
I would like to, thank you. I had a discussion this afternoon with the staff person who's working on this ordinance and expressed my serious concerns that it was scheduled to go to the Single Family Design Board, the Planning Commission, and then the Council Ordinance Committee for adoption without us seeing it. And she expressed that there were so many questions brought forth at the Planning Commission meeting regarding this ordinance that the council has decided, the staff has decided to take another approach. They are going to go directly to the city council, who will give parameters and decisions and scopes, and then they will write it and then come back to the various boards. And I emphasized very strongly to her that Landmarks wants to be part of this, that it concerns areas that we are involved in protecting. So that is the latest as of 12:30 this afternoon. And I would like to emphasize again to staff that we need to be kept informed. And when I found out that it was single family and blah, blah, and we never saw it, that upset me. So I can join you in that. But I would, excuse me, ask that staff at the next Planning Commission give us an update on the status of where the AUD is. And so we can monitor it and be aware of it. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Commissioner House.
question of staff. I was just wondering if there's been an appeal of our denial of the artificial turf at La Entrada?
Correct, Mr. House. So there was an appeal filed for that, and that will be coming down the pipeline.
So we don't know the date yet?
No, the date has the date been finalized? I don't believe so.
I heard it wasn't going to be until the new year.
Yeah,
So long after the
We have
opening.
appeals lining up.
yeah,
But don't worry, they're just lawyers that are going to solve it. In the moment.
yeah.
Yeah, probably.
They're going to allow it on the cemetery.
So I'll just really quick run through the appeals that are pending, because there are a few. So we have 800 Santa Barbara Street. There's the 3 Rosemary is still scheduled to be reviewed, and then the 35 State Street for the California Hotel with the artificial grass.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Reyes.
800 Santa Barbara Street has gone before the staff hearing officer and had an extension on their condo plans for 2 years. It was granted.
The previous plans, approved
The
plans.
previous plans were approved, the approval was granted an extension of 2 years.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. House.
One other question. 817 Delavina, the one with the Italian 8. Has there been any further developments on that? Because I noticed it's listed for sale.
Well, Mr. House, I'm not aware of it being for sale right now. The architects are still working to address ABR's comments prior to them coming to HLC because, it's a two-part project. But right now it's indefinite, so
Okay.
there's really,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I have to leave by, what is it, Mr. Grumbine? 8:30 tonight.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Mr. Chair,
The way we've started, I don't know if we'll make that.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Vania.
I'm not leaving. However, I do want to make a comment. In the Paseo Nuevo, right across from on De La Guerra Street there are banners hanging down, I think illegally, off of all the windows advertising Heineken beer.
House, yeah, for Oktoberfest.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And that's legal?
No.
Oh. Anyway, I was just thinking that it's just,
How come we know that?
Because I walk downtown all the time. I notice those too.
Have to investigate and
Mr. Chair.
enforce.
maybe they changed the brand or something,
To something Hispanic. Mr. Sudi.
I do need to leave by 4,
Okay.
or at 4.
Okay. Anyone else? Let's get going then. Subcommittee reports.
All right.
Do we have any? I don't think we.
Question number 2, Mr. Hernandez, may I, Mr. Chair, ask for an update on when we are likely to get the historic structures ordinance?
It's still in the city attorney's office, and Ms. Insueta's reviewing the
I can't,
revision.
you're going to have to speak slower, I can't hear you.
The new design review supervisor, Irma Insueta, is still reviewing all the proposed changes we had because she just came on board a month ago, and then she will be working with the city attorney to get you a draft. It's at the city attorney's office.
Oh, because this was promised us in 2016, and it is now 2017, 9 months.
I
And,
know. I push for it
I would
almost every
appreciate it if
day
you keep.
because I need it to do
It's
my job.
important that it be done, and we've been promised it for months.
I know.
Okay.
Item F. Is that you?
So feisty, a couple letters. Now we can go to a happy one.
Welcome.
Am I up?
You're up.
careful what you say.
Thank you, Chair Lavoie and Commission members. I'd like to take you to a happier place, and I'll be very brief. My name is Chris Manson-Hing, and with the AIA, and I'd like to announce the 9th Annual Architect Tours Living with Water on Saturday, October the 7th. It is a celebration of local architecture, its benefits, cultural identity, and will showcase results of the design review process. We have 6 sites on the tour, one which is commercial, which is the Moxie, and 5 exceptional residential projects with innovative architectural solutions where water is utilized and managed to create exemplary projects. This short presentation, just for the public here, can be accessed through the AIASB.com, and when you pull it up, you will see what's on the screen now, and if you go to the right and click on the AIA...
AUD projects for next year.
Yeah, the AIA Santa Barbara Architect Tours, you will get the screen, and you can scroll down here all through the projects. The first image that you will see is where the after party will be at the SB Cast. And then following that, you'll see where you can purchase tickets and the prices, etc. I'll run through the projects quickly for you here. We have a 10,000 plus square foot home on the ocean in Hope Ranch that has a lot of water features, including a room dividing aquarium among the elements. There's the Toro Canyon residence of Barton Myers, which has rooftop pools that serve as both a resource for firefighting and also as part of the architecture itself. It creates a waterfall. There's also a lap pool, and very interesting project here. The next one here is the HOME, which is really very original in that the whole top floor is created by these 4 long containers that were cut into and then joined with other elements, and generally more glass that's joining them than anything else. Very interesting project, and they also have a swimming pool, and there are features that take care of their gray water with bioswales, drought-tolerant landscape, rainwater capture, etc. We have the greenhouse, which is a 1940s era house and features a lot of underground cisterns, gray water irrigation, drip irrigation, drought-tolerant species in the landscape, etc. And then the Moxie Studio, which has a system of capturing its rainwater and treating it through the planters before hitting the collection points and then putting it into the ground aquifers on site. And then the last one here is a Greek-inspired residence out here on Coal Oil Point at the Bluffs. Again, a lot of water-conserving features, a lot of Mediterranean gardens, and features that how they treat the gray water systems and utilize that water for, again, replenishing our aquifers. One of the key points of the tour is that anyone on a tour can start the tour at any project that they want. So they don't have to come to the AIE anymore to collect tickets and passes. You can start your tour at any point, and there's an app that's either available to you or the volunteers that will be able to log you in so that you can now be officially on the tour from any point. And then when there are updates as we get closer, I'll be able to tell you, I think, at one more opportunity.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
And have a good agenda.
It's all going to go downhill from here.
Actually, stick around.
Always better than most agendas.
Thank you very much. Our first item is item number 1, 2925 Paseo del Refugio. It's a miscellaneous action item. Nicole?
I have a couple pictures on the screen for you. Nothing is working today. Well, if I could get the thing to pull up. Jennifer, could you get that slideshow up? It's only a few pictures, but it helps. Okay, so we saw this last week, and the commission decided it could be designated a structure of merit, and we set the date for the hearing for today. And the owner has agreed to the structure of merit designation. This building was designed in 1928 in the Spanish colonial revival style. It is eligible under criterion D as it exemplifies the Spanish colonial revival style, which is important to the heritage of the city, and also qualifies under criterion G. I think some of the key design elements that are exemplary are the intersecting terracotta tile roofs, the beautiful intersecting gables, as well as the 3 arches in the front, and the wood windows that are horizontally divided casements. And it does have good integrity with almost all its original features intact, and it has integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association, and it allows it to convey its original appearance.
Thank you. You done?
Yes.
We're just catching your breath. Thank you. I'll open public comment. Mr. DeForest.
Thank you. guess this structure deserves to be a structure of merit, though it's part of the crack that blew up there in the 30s after the property became available. It used to be a walnut orchard. I just deplore the idea that and it'll depend on the height, that the facade, that nobody will be able to see this structure of merit because a screening wall on the street is being proposed. And these screening walls on these tracks, if they're all walled off, nobody will be able to appreciate the architectural merits. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item? I'll close public comment commission for questions. Any?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Drury.
Yes, I know that we, in the motion, we suggested that their proposal for a French door on the left of that photograph, those windows they wanted a French doors with, I think, side lights, and we suggested the side lights, I believe.
Yes.
Would that, so I guess I'll ask Mr. Hernandez, would that affect your findings of it being eligible for?
No, they're compatible with the patterns of the front elevation, and the commission requested they stay in the same opening,
right,
and they'll be horizontally divided at consent. It's going to consent next in 2 weeks. They can request the details of those so we can make sure that they're fit the style and are recessed appropriately.
And what about the wall in the front along the street?
The commission found that it was compatible with the historic building. I don't
Okay. All right. Thank
disagree. I think it's still eligible as a structure of merit with the wall.
you. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Siddiq.
Question. In the paragraph under criterion D, the third line, the fourth word in, can you pronounce that for me? Au revoir? Or
I say oeuvre.
Oeuvre. Okay.
Over.
Okay. Thank you. It's not a misspelling.
That's a nice
It's an
old
Uber.
19th century word.
Yeah. No, yeah.
They were talking about here, it says
Our
Uber.
design guidelines, I might have
Going
cut
back
it
to the
from the ones
Beaux-Arts
that
movement, we
Anthony.
haven't used in a very long
Blame it
time.
on me. Go ahead. There's almost four vowels together.
Yeah.
Commissioner Suding evidently does not speak French.
I don't. I speak
Word,
Spanish.
You didn't go to the École des
that
Beaux-Arts.
works.
Can I
it
then
again.
I'll make-
comments?
No.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion for the resolution to designate as a structure of merit the Spanish Colonial Revival residence at 2925 Paseo de Refugio, Santa Barbara, California, Resolution 2017-63.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is also miscellaneous action item, public hearing, 415 Old Coast Highway. Nicole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. This was based on the Historic Structures Report that you accepted on September 6th, and they found the Craftsman building built in 1916 eligible for criterion A, D, E, and I. A being the heritage of the city, D being for its architectural style, the Craftsman style. I is, what's the I? I don't have them memorized. You would think I do. I go through them so often. But I is because it's a familiar feature of the neighborhood, and E, I think is also for importance to the city. But we did note, because the building's proposed to be moved, that the structure of merit designation goes with the house. So when it's moved, it's still over there, and we'll have to re-record the address at the county records department.
Okay. So that's understood by everyone. It is for the structure and not for the site. Okay.
Right.
Any public comment? Mr. DeForest.
Yes. if it is, how can it be a familiar feature if it's going to be moved? That goes against the structure of merit criteria. So is there a picture available?
Yeah, sorry. It has these beautiful, I think it's just lovely lighted glass windows, and it has the shingle siding and the front porch intact.
Does the oak tree come with it?
So, these were the criteria outlined in the structures report.
We are, yes, we are in public comment. Comments, Mr.
Thank you.
DeForest?
I don't think it should be, I think it would suit this reason for structure of merit better if it wasn't proposed to be moved. And maybe the applicants that want to move it could find out a way for their development to keep it on site. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment questions to the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Suding?
It does seem odd that criterion E and I are part of it when it's going to be relocated.
We reviewed this report and accepted the report with those criteria last meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Arias.
we have landmarks in the city that have been moved to be saved. The Fernald House would not be in existence. The Hunt Stambach House would not be in existence if they had not been moved. Moving is a very difficult and serious problem for people who undertake it, but it's done because they care about the building, the structure, and the architecture. And I think that is important. And they should be designated as structures of merit because they are a structure that is moved, not the landscaping surrounding it. And we should encourage buildings to become structures of merit, and if they cannot, to be moved if possible. And I think if we adopted this policy of, well, you can't move it, we would not have much in the way of some of our landmarks now. So I think this is appropriate.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Mr. Grunbein?
In one way it makes sense to me that it's a structure of merit, first saying why it's a structure of merit and meeting certain criteria. Once it has met those criteria, and if the only criteria were, for example, E and I, and it didn't have A and D,
I get it now.
Then we could, because those then it wouldn't actually be eligible because we're taking away the one thing it had. But it makes sense that we are declaring everything about it, and then when it goes to be changed, then those are considerations as part of whether those are contributing factors and whether it would still stand up if we moved it or if we changed those. So it makes a certain sense to see it that way too.
Yeah, I get it.
Mr. Chair.
Can we add it had been?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mahan?
Yeah, the tourist center down on Cabrillo,
Right.
The Larco Fish Building was going to be demolished by Caltrans. The only way to save that, and that was a historic structure, the only way to save it was to move it. And I believe the historic building, the one by the Calarubias Adobe, I think that's been moved twice to be saved. It's important sometimes to move something in order to save it.
Quite often.
And actually, to add to that would be that eventually, I think the E and I will then reapply to its new situation because
It is
after
eventually,
20 years,
yeah,
it's going to be
yeah.
everyone's going to be familiar.
Mr. Chair,
Any further discussion?
are there any French words in here that I don't know?
Yeah. I don't know. Are
You've corrected
there?
my Spanish so many times.
Therefore,
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
so this
Sure.
a particular structure will be placed on top of another structure. It'll be basically a second story, is that correct?
No, it's actually will appear as a first story from the street, and there will be an understory
Because of
from
the
the
Okay,
backyard.
thank you
It's
very
a
much.
Common pattern.
I would like to make a motion
Mr. Sudi.
to adopt Resolution 2017-64 to designate as a structure of merit the Perini House, a craftsman-style house that's constructed in 1916, located at 415 Old Coast Highway.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries unanimously. Our next item is 10 East Yananali Street. This is final review. Good.
Make sure the green light's lit.
You need to begin by introducing yourselves, and then what you're doing.
side-by-side studies, and these are actually where it is today.
We've seen this before, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Turn your microphone, large oval button, there you go. And that one too.
And then you need to be within 6 inches of one or the other.
I'll go right here.
Better? Yep, good. Okay, go
I'll,
ahead.
I'll give you, so there's two 10 by 10 murals, so they look similar, but they're actually different.
Tell us who you are first.
Oh,
So these look similar, but they're actually two versions of, two separate murals. So my name is Marcelo, and I'm here from the Arts Fund, and I'm here to update you on a project for the Funk Zones Public Art Program. And basically, the artist was commissioned to depict the history of the Funk Zone, kind of like past and present activity, architecture, people, and just general life in the neighborhood. And so this is her design that she's kind of boiled down from a lot of different ideas. It has artists that are currently working in the neighborhood. Philip Copland, who just passed away, is included. Dougie Saka, Mike Irwin, Sonny Castagnola's in there. There's some of the Raiden boats, Al Merrick, trains, planes, all the things associated with the neighborhood. And yeah.
Show us where they're going.
yes.
Oh, sure. So here is the building. Are you guys, yeah, okay. So,
Hey, don't show us those. We'll want a restoration.
yeah, so this is the building on Yananali and Helena. So this is Yananali right here, and this is Helena. And they'll be going in these two spots right here.
Okay.
And they're
The
both,
hub, is that the
yeah, it's the impact hub, yeah.
building you say? Found the bricks.
Okay, that's it?
Yeah, I
Okay,
just
great.
wanted to do a review, and we found these pictures from about 1930 that I thought you guys might be interested
Of
just to
course
see,
we
just
are.
for fun, yeah.
Yeah, don't show us those.
Yeah.
We'll want it restored.
I mean, it is back to the original, you know?
It's like a way cool building.
Yeah. And so we'll be unveiling the project on September 27th, along with a few others, if you guys feel like coming down and checking it out.
And actually, the building's intact.
Yeah, it's
Most part.
pretty solid.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones you never notice.
Can I see the old, can I see the black and white?
Yeah.
Like that.
You want it?
Yeah. We can thank
I'll
Ms. Hernandez for that as
Oh,
well.
look at those kind of,
I'll open public comment.
1918.
Anyone from the public? Seeing
That's
none,
great
I'll
work.
close public comment to commission for questions.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Sudi.
question. Does the each mural fill the whole space?
Yes.
Somebody might have asked that, I just didn't, because it looks like it's a different proportion.
I think it's just the angle of the picture. I think this one was just taken a little bit closer than this one, but they're both perfectly measured 3 or 4 times, and
so it fills the whole
yeah,
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll get pretty close, and I think we'll probably put a little frame around it, so it just has a nice border.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would that frame be? Would it be 3-dimensional or painted or what?
Probably 3-dimensional, like some molding
Okay,
that
we-
would match the window.
We would need to see that.
Okay, for sure. I guess we just haven't really quite gotten there yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the other question, I guess it's more for Mr. Hernandez. Why are those 2 window bays boarded in or boarded up?
The windows have been removed. So there's no windows under there. So I don't know, it's been that way since I don't know for how long. And they haven't proposed to put them back yet. I think it's been that way for like.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it would be awfully nice to have those windows back, but I don't know what's going on in
mentioned
the.
it to her quite a few times.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the interior of that. But in any case, okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
So I feel like the biggest shame is the person who smeared Portland all over it, because we took the paint off.
Windows.
You know, we got the paint off, but there's still Portland stuck in a lot of the brick. But it's a patina.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. House.
I think I got this item confused with the next one, or the next one is temporary, correct? Is
Yes.
this a permanent installation?
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be up for about 3 to 5 years until they decide that they might want to change it out.
Okay.
The idea with the public art program is to try to keep the art rotating and fresh. So
What is
it's
the material that the mural is painted on?
It's called Polytab, and it's kind of like canvas, but it's a thin fabric that gets treated with gesso.
Okay, and does that get adhered to the plywood then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in the future, it can be removed.
Yeah, exactly. We were recommended to it by Mark Alvarado, who's done a bunch of murals with it, and so I guess it's kind of just the best way to create a mural in your studio.
Will it be interpretive signage so we know who's represented within?
Yeah, we're talking to Charles Donnellan about maybe creating a little code or maybe some kind of key legend where people can see who each figure is. So yeah, we definitely hope to do that down the line for sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. House.
From these photos, it doesn't look like it's glossy at all, but I just want to make sure when it's installed and has a protective coating on it,
Definitely.
it's not going to be glossy.
It might have a little sheen to it. She's going to varnish it, and then we're going to put basically Nova Gel, which is the adhesive, and then we'll treat it with like an anti-graffiti and UV protecting chemical.
So whatever sheen that has is going to be the
Yeah.
result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually those are pretty high sheen, those anti-graffiti.
Well, we could specify as matte as possible.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Drury.
Yes, a question. So is Ms. Hoag well on her way to finishing these?
Yes.
So what we're looking at is maybe is less than what is there now?
Actually, she sent these to me about like 30 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
30, 40
So,
minutes ago.
well,
so
the
that's where
only
she's
thing
at
that
today.
I would say is that there's, I surf, so I'm imbued with the history of the area, and that was probably Gator's biggest shop. And I think this is Rennie measuring the width from stringer to, or from rail to rail, next to Al Merrick, in one of those.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
There's also Clyde Beatty. There's Wayne Rich. They were all part of the shaping. The old Weber's building was sort of a hot spot.
Sure.
Up, down the street. I would. I don't know that that's the best representation of Rennie shaping, but
Okay.
but he's he's an iconic figure.
Yeah.
Al Merrick less so, but still.
It might be him. I just can't remember because there were so many people in the sketches, and I just don't know
this
exactly
is the old.
who she ended up being.
What we're looking at is somebody shaping with the stringer on ground. So I mean, they used to glue their own stringers and own blanks. Well, I'd like to see maybe a little more representation of the manufacturing of surfboards.
Okay.
But that would be something to pass on to Ms. Hoag from me. You can use my name if you wish.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know it was quite a challenge to fit everything in with the property manager or property owners' suggestions and all that. So.
And what about the drunken sailors that were? We don't need.
They're in front.
Oh, that's right.
They're not
the ones that are blank.
I don't think they're painted in yet, but there's a really great group of guys. I think they work for like a tree trimming company down the street, and on Fridays they drink beer in their little yard. And she got a great picture of them.
Oh,
so,
classic.
So they're there, and it's real people in the neighborhood, and just like general people who enjoy the neighborhood. So
drunk tree trimmers with chainsaws. That's kind of a frightening.
On ladders.
On ladders.
The funk zone,
Yeah, really.
Mr. Chair,
Comments? Yeah.
have you considered the possibility of having motion detector lights to illuminate the side?
They actually do have some lights, I think just over where the murals are.
existing?
Well, actually, those are vents. They're not lights,
Okay.
but they
They're close.
do have some new lights right up here that are just on top.
Are they going to be motion detectors?
I think they're just on timers, and so they'll be on throughout the
Consider
evening.
motion detectors
Yeah.
because timers run out and then activity can happen that you don't like.
Sure.
So
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely recommend it. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the mural lit up throughout the night.
I think it would be
yeah.
very nice,
Yeah.
but I think you also would be a form of protection for it too.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. House.
I didn't catch, how far off the ground is the bottom of the mural?
About 5 feet.
Oh, okay, so you
Yeah.
can't reach
I'd
them.
say 5'6".
And I'm hearing there's lighting. I've got to ask the question, has that received any approval?
I don't know, because I'm just here from the Arts Fund, so
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what the property owners did.
Funk zone? Well, it can be funky, but it needs an approval.
Since it is on a structure of merit.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a request to speak form from Mr. DeForest. Mr. DeForest, do you have any comments?
Yes, I would like to see that this has a, as with the next one, the next mural, and with the mural policy of the El Pueblo Viejo, I think this ought to have an end date, year, 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. Back to the commission. Any further comments? Can I have a motion for final approval?
I'd make that
Perhaps
motion for
with-
final approval.
With the framing to
Oh.
come back to the consent calendar?
Yeah, sure.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
May I
Mr.
ask a
Chair, could the-
clarification?
Just a second. I heard Ms. Arias first.
You said the mural would be up for how long? That should be in the motion, that should be identified in the
I
motion.
disagree, actually. So, but if the maker of the motion would accept a time limit,
Yes,
okay, a stated time of,
I would say 3 years, and then come back.
then come back.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds fair.
And the seconder agree?
Sure.
Mr. House?
I would appreciate it if the motion could include that the finish on it shall be the lowest sheen possible, and that any lighting that is installed for this mural requires approval.
Back to consent?
Yeah.
I would accept that.
I'm good.
Second? The seconder
I'm
agree?
good.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a very nice,
So-
it's a
That'd be
very
nice.
nice mural.
Yeah, she did a really great job. She worked super hard. So framing, sheen, lighting.
Right.
Got it.
Can I have a copy?
It's really sweet that real people, real history has been in and current
Yeah.
has been in.
I'm a
really
little a little person in there too. It's just
About son.
Are you really?
I'm like at the bottom left. I always sit down at the Arts Fund on the curb.
Pointing
so I'm
up,
kinda just like this.
up at it?
Yeah.
With your hat on?
Yeah,
Like the-
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
That's me.
All right, so item number 4 is the same address.
Do you want these back?
I'll come.
Yeah,
keep them-
yeah.
keep them in now.
Yeah, he wants them back.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Hi, I'm Ethan Turpin. I'm the lead artist on a project with the working title of Funk Zone Video Murals. And Marcel and I have been working up this proposal for, we thought, maybe 9 months now, with the support of the neighbors and collaboration, in fact, with the Figueroa Mountain Brewing, Acme Hospitality, and the Miramar Building.
And Impact Hub.
So essentially what this is, these are video murals that would be on rotation at night, projected onto the Miramar Building, the north wall.
Yep.
And largely, so I would be curating the content for this amongst local and international video artists who would be encouraged to respond to the site itself, the architectural features and textures of that wall, for two mounted video projectors that would be linked together in their imaging to make a panoramic, stitched, cohesive image, moving image. This image up here is an example of a similar kind of project, although this was for a festival. This was a temporary piece, architecturally mapped, and I'll show you a video of this piece shortly.
Would you describe architecturally mapped for me?
Yeah, so there's this exciting new tool for marrying light and video imagery with architecture, where we actually isolate spatial areas to architectural features. So for instance, the columns in this building were isolated from the background, so the background's cut out, so that's not illuminated. The tops, etc., it's all traced in. And you can actually, as artists, we can then build graphics based on the physical elements we're working on top of. So it's sort of an exciting new genre, and I love it. I have a sculpture background and also a filmmaking background, so I really enjoy this kind of work. And I think this building is so cool. And I just am excited about the idea of bringing this, extending on the work that Marcelo is doing with murals in that area, to make it more of an arts destination, which I think a lot of people are looking at it for. But there's, from an artist standpoint, there's been flux between artists that were there for a while and then have a hard time staying, to being able to afford to stay, versus the art that comes in with the tourism. And I think to really do more public art there, it really it supports it as an arts district. And the 2017 Arts and Economic Prosperity Report, the fifth report, identified that Santa Barbara, nonprofit arts and culture industry generates $198.6 million in annual economic activity. So there is, although it's not always easy to see, a way that arts and culture does help the local economy. So that's a perk for sure. So anyway, moving on to the building itself, which you're familiar with. It's hard to see, but here's a side-by-side with a test grid that I projected on the building at night from one projector. This would in fact spread across the whole surface. So that's the wall. These are a few views on it, and then the surrounding area. Figueroa Mountain Brewing across the street. And here's a mock-up that I put together with Photoshop with the outdoor housings. These are protective housings for the video projectors that would be mounted there on the wall of the Helena Avenue Bakery.
And those were designed in collaboration with them.
Right,
Something
exactly. But suggestions
the rest of the building, yeah.
for the metallic treatment, et cetera, and certainly the placement. A few concepts that we're talking about for artworks that would go there. Breakwater, which is sort of projecting waves and patterns from waves breaking from above onto the walls. Grid games, just another idea which creates interesting optical illusions with the architecture, where you get a sense of being able to see through the building. Brick flow, where you take the bricks themselves and graphically make them animate. Underwater Life, which is imagining the area from underwater. Mountain Time, which was responding to a conversation with Jamie from Figueroa Mountain Brewing about taking great photographic imagery from the backcountry, featuring the Santa Barbara front and backcountry on the building. Passing Shadows, which was inspired by just the interesting way that moving lights interact with pedestrian shadows. And Live Street, where we would be taking live remote sensing equipment to create imagery from people there in real time. So this would be I'd be drawing upon this incredible talent pool that is both local as well as international, and I'd look forward to bringing people to Santa Barbara for this, as well as giving an opportunity to local artists. There's a little bit about my work. I just do a lot of video installations. I recently had a show at Moxie. These are projections that are similar to the kinds of things we're talking about. This was at a museum in LA with tendrils moving around for a show about water pollution on the bricks. And then, again, a collaboration with Jonathan Smith on an architectural surface and also on the street. We've done some work with New Noise in the area there, projecting on the street and buildings. And I can show you some examples real quick here. So this is the one that we were just looking at. So it doesn't take much to really play with the perception of the solid features of architecture and really celebrate the architecture in my mind.
Plus, you don't need drugs.
Definitely don't. And you're not making...
Before or after?
Either.
The other thing is, obviously, you don't need to mark the building up. You can do incredible things on the building and then just turn it off.
Yeah. And I'll just add, because for the last couple of years, I've been trying to fill in the neighborhood with art kind of where I can, and there's only so many murals you can put up where property owners just don't want them or that's just not right. So I try to put sculpture, which is even a little bit more difficult. And so I think video is a really great way to not really make an impact on a great building, but still bring art to the neighborhood that can always just be changed.
Yeah. Also, I like the fact that the site is so close to the ocean, and the water has been an inspiration for myself and my friend John, who I work with a lot in past projects. And I think it'd be beautiful to project this kind of thing on that wall there.
Talk to us about when it would be active.
Yeah, good question. We would be going into a fundraising mode next. So we have a lot of people buying into the idea, and now we just need to get that together. So hopefully early 2018.
I was thinking more about like time
The
of
schedule.
day.
Oh, time of day.
Yeah.
The schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the time of year. I think as soon as it starts to get dark, as soon as it is dark, would be nice for a few hours, 2-3 hours. We're figuring out if it would be every night or if it would be more weekendish, like Thursday through Sunday.
I think it also depends on how many artists, how much money we raise and how many artists we can get involved will kind of like dictate how much new art we have to put in. So I think we've raised like $40,000. We can get the 12 artists that we want, and then we can have that 6-day-a-week schedule. Is that kind of the idea? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that it's probably going to go off at midnight, 2 o'clock. 2 a.m.
Before that,
Definitely,
I think you turn off for the night.
Yeah.
Probably 10 or 11.
Okay. So
Yeah.
okay.
And that's we're figuring that out. It's up for discussion.
Okay.
And
With
if
the
you all
neighbors.
have any input, it's kind of just open right now.
Yeah.
I think we understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Open public comment, Mr. DeForest.
One of my questions has been
Comments,
answered
Mr. DeForest.
about how long the projection would be on, the
will
show
one of these
would be
days.
on. each night, and you've answered that they're thinking of 10 to 11, that it would, so it wouldn't be on 24 hours a day, or 24 hours, it would just be at night from when it got dark enough to 11 o'clock.
Two things here.
Are these, and I guess I'm using the term videos, this is projected to be changed on a weekly, monthly, what kind of basis? And does it need a projectionist? Does somebody have to be around to run it? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. DeForest. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak? I'll close public comment. Questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sudi.
I'm assuming that the projections are very focused and contained and there's no light trespass. And does this also fit in with the dark sky ordinance or guidelines, not illuminating unnecessarily? I'll make a comment. I'm just a little concerned about the amount of light that is really, I don't want to call it unnecessary, but, just speak to that for me.
Yeah. Our projectors aren't bright enough to actually make such an impact like where it would illuminate beyond the surface of the building itself. They're mapped to the surface, so there's no bleed, but also no glare reflecting back off the surface per se. It's I don't think that'll be seen as an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Drury.
So people driving by down, because it's going to be on the Yananali elevation of that building, right? That's the north building, the longest.
Yeah, it's a north wall, yeah.
On the Helena side.
So will that interfere with people driving at night, coming and going?
People driving south-ish on Yananali will be able to see the projections. They won't have anything.
They won't interfere with
in their eyes.
Okay.
The projectors themselves, you would to have them in your eyes, you would need to be standing with your back against the wall facing the projector, and really no one would really be doing that.
No.
Yeah, well, I think they would even just go above the cars.
Yeah.
So it'd be.
Yeah, that's true. We looked at that. Anyone who's say pulling their car out parking right there, we don't want it in their eyes either. So it'd be mapped above that.
And what about security for the video projectors themselves in terms of people taking them?
They would be double housed in locked steel boxes, really tightened up. Part of the budget will also be some maintenance. So if someone were to say throw a rock at the housing and it was shifted, we can reposition it. But we're planning on them being really rock solid and hard to take or to hurt.
How high are they above the parking or above the ground on that wall?
8 feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, high up on that
at
building.
least 8
because they're next
feet.
to the sign, which
Okay.
is, I mean, you'd have to jump to hit it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Mahan.
I recall that La Entrada wanted to do something like this on one of their buildings, with some kind of a light. Ann Kale proposed some kind of a light pattern or something. And we were greatly concerned about the precedent that set. How do we keep other people from not doing this? I mean, this is a very attractive thing, but how do you keep other people from not wanting to do the same thing? And if a lot of people do it, how does that impact El Pueblo Viejo? Those are my questions. I don't know who can answer them, but
Well, it's not in El Pueblo Viejo.
this is not in El Pueblo
No,
Viejo?
it's not. It's in the funk zone.
We're just seeing it because it's a
It's a
historic
historic
building.
structure.
Merit.
Yeah, merit.
I see.
Yeah, so we're not setting up, we're setting a precedent for the funk zone that the ABR has to deal with.
Yeah.
Mr.
You
Chair.
make it really, really
So
bright.
this is not,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mann, were you done?
okay.
Okay.
Another couple of questions came up. On that photograph you have up on the screen where it's showing the boxes, can they go up higher? Or do they have to be sort of in the center of your canvas, so to speak, across the street?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember why that spot was picked. It is helpful elevation for the projections. It's not essential. It's easier for someone on a ladder to deal with. It's not as tall a ladder.
Right.
It's not mounted in the glass block.
Yeah, there's the glass.
He's the landscape architect.
You can't attach to the.
I'm leaving.
There wasn't a tree we
to
could
the,
nail
to
it
the
to.
glass block. You had the
my other-
concrete beam there. That's where you had to attach.
Yeah, hypothetically, you might be able to attach much further up in the gray wall area, but I honestly I don't remember why the
Maybe somebody-
Sherry wanted it specifically.
Getting power to it from the inside, maybe.
Yeah, it
Part of
seems
something to do
there's
with it.
part of it is power, I think. Too.
The other question is, have you looked at anything as for protection, those boxes, that is less utilitarian looking? I mean, I know that the building is very utilitarian, and we don't necessarily need to put some wrought iron thing up there, but those to me are just two fairly good sized shoe boxes on the side of the building. I'm wondering how we can disguise them a little bit more.
It's not on an historic building. It is in the funk zone.
So we don't have purview over the projector boxes. Is that
No,
what
we
you're
don't
saying?
really.
You're right.
It is on a different building, but just to answer your question, it's based on the metal housing that the Lark used down the wall further. So,
Mr. Chair?
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
Mr. Dury.
Are we into comments?
Yeah, well, we've been doing both, so.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a comment. I think it's just fantastic. And I think it's something that's going to just, the area is already pretty vitalized. And I went down there just to drop a bicycle off on a Saturday, not thinking anything. It took me half an hour to get across Yananali and Helena Avenue. I mean, just so many people. It's really a vibrating place. And I think this is just a wonderful addition. And I'm completely for it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Support this project wholeheartedly.
Mr. Chair.
I'll echo that.
Mr. House.
I support the project. I would just like the motion to specify that there be no, in the projected content, no advertising, no company logos, and no text.
I don't think
One comment.
Can?
One comment about that.
Michigan.
We had talked about in a discreet way, sort of in a museum style way, listing the name of the artist, the artwork, and potentially thanking the sponsor without logos, but simple text, sort of in a bottom corner somewhere.
So, like, what would the size and the context of the whole building be? It would be.
Well, I think just legible enough. So yeah, I'm
there's some letter
I'm
examples back
improvising
there
right now, but
No larger than 4 inches.
Right, 4 inches, the third one from the right.
yeah, that would be suitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I just don't want to see company logos,
Right.
advertising.
Then
And-
it becomes
Oktoberfest.
And
Right, then there's another group we need to
Yeah,
talk
it's another group you need to go to. Become
A
signage.
bottle of beer.
Yeah.
that's actually one of the stipulations or rules in the public art program guidelines is that we can't put anybody's logos or any advertising or anything like that. Yeah, just purely art.
Question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Can you press play? I want to see what that one does.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Quickly, this is an example of some related kinds of work that I've been involved with to see for context.
Oh, my goodness.
See? It
Cool.
was worth it.
Yeah,
Love
this-
it.
Awesome.
yeah, I've seen this actually projected on a Baroque church in Europe.
Oh yeah.
And it was just amazing.
That's what we're trying to
So what are you
accomplish.
going to do with the crowds that are going to stop, the traffic that's going to stop, and watch this for 3 hours?
Well, it's great. I mean, there's some businesses, like Le Marchand is right there. Figaro Mountain Brewery has their patio right there. So there's already good little.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for final, for project design approval and final approval with
we don't want to see the schedule or anything else?
No,
Second.
I think
Can
it's
say with the note of the 4 inches or?
Yeah, that no signage be incorporated except to identify the artist.
I would second that motion.
When you say to only identify the artist, you're not talking about identifying the sponsors.
That's what I said. I guess I could.
I think that's acceptable.
The artist and sponsor.
no logos.
Right, no logos is cool. I'd like to be able to thank people on it, but
That's fine.
yeah.
Okay, so that's fine as part of my motion then, and I don't think there's anything else that we need to say, so.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? It's exciting.
Well, you guys
All
rock.
those in
Thank
favor?
you.
Thank you very much.
I think it's going to be
Any
great.
opposed? Any abstain? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appealable.
This is appealable in 10 days to the city council, unless you're an attorney, and then it can come in whenever.
Can we take a break?
We can take a break. Yeah,
Let's
Tim,
take a little break.
please.
Well, you wanted poetry? 1,000 block is
What's new
Mission.
and what isn't?
Los Olivos,
You can eat and run the meeting
way
at
up
the same
there.
time.
Yeah, it's right
Those are share. I'm not going to share.
What's what?
Those are good.
Those are good.
Is like-
I'll call the meeting back to
Los
order. Our
Olivos
next
and-
item is item number 5,
Yeah.
2227 State Street. Come forward, please.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. If you'd introduce yourself for the record, this is a new project for us, so tell us what you're doing. Unless I have a staff report?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Right before we get started, this is a new project. Where staff's asking for the commission to look at today is their proposal on the design, but also this project does not meet the current open yard. All single-family houses need to have 1,250 square feet, and it needs to be a 20 by 20 dimension. It's slightly deficient, so it needs a modification by the staff hearing officer. So it'll be comments only.
Great. Thank you.
My name is James Wilson, and I own the property at 2227 State Street.
Are you on? Is that green light?
Well,
There's an oval button on that microphone down at the
And
bottom.
then there should be a green light at the
There you
bottom.
go.
right there. Now you are.
I'm still James Wilson.
You still own the property?
Own the property, last time I
Good to
looked.
know.
So this property is upper state near, between Los Olivos and Pueblo. And the houses in the neighborhood are basically all from the 1920s. There's a couple of incentives that we had to.
Could you start by showing us the neighborhood, please?
Sure. Okay, so this is Pueblo going down towards Cottage Hospital.
Have you used that? Thank you.
This is Los Olivos, east side going up to the Mission, and west side also going down towards the freeway.
Yes.
Mr. Sudi.
Good. How are you?
Is right here, 3 houses in from the corner of Pueblo and State.
And do you have photographs of the neighborhood?
We do. Oh, we don't have photographs of the neighborhood.
The adjoining houses?
We do not have photographs of the adjoining houses. We have photographs of just this house.
Well, let's start there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Those are usually required, sir, as part of a submittal package. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what your project is?
Okay.
Go ahead, sir, and tell us what your project is.
Do you want to see the pictures?
Well, that's not in a form that's visible for the screen. So the next time you appear before us, please have pictures of the house.
Mr. Chair, I believe in the set packet there are photos. If you just flip through the plans, they're just of the house though, not of the neighborhood.
Yeah, you can do that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Didn't realize it dropped off so steeply.
So this is probably the best view right here of the front of the property from State Street. This is another view from the front of the property, more towards from the driveway side. In other words, you don't see much of the house itself. There is a shot. This is the shot from inside the wall.
Okay.
So basically, there are no visible changes to the house with what we're proposing on the addition. It's all on the back. The lot slopes away down towards Cottage Hospital, so it appears to be a one-story house from the street. And then it daylights in the back of the property with a lower level. Originally, the house had a single car garage underneath the house, built in 1927. It's really unusable for a modern car. So one of the incentives was to put in a two-covered parking area, which was required by building safety and zoning and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The other problem was that there was no interior stairway from the main level of the house to the lower level. So we're incorporating a stairway inside the house. Essentially, we're squaring off the footprint of the existing house. It's approximately.
Why don't you show us to us in either site plan or plan?
This is the basement level. This is the existing. This is the existing downstairs area. There's a bedroom. This is the garage, that existing garage that was underneath the house. The proposal is essentially to just square this area off on the first floor and the second floor. So this is the lower area. It incorporates the stairway going down, and then just squares the back of the house off, doesn't enlarge that back wall at all.
Sorry, this is the front of the house?
Yes. So this is State Street out here. On the upper level, it's pretty much the same existing footprint, has this jog, comes back here. This was an old, kind of a covered porch that had been made into a bathroom at some point. This is then now being squared off. There's the stairway going down. It effectively enlarges the kitchen and enlarges the master bathroom. You want to see the elevations?
Yes, please.
Kind of have the same situation on the roof. Here's the existing roof line. This basically just squares off on both sides of the house. This is the existing front of the house. There's no change. So this is what you see if you go inside the gate, front of the house. The primary changes are on the back of the house, but it doesn't alter the roof line. The ridge line stays the same. It just basically comes out, squares off. There's a little break line in the roof at this point. That remains the same, basically squares off towards the back. This side of the house, this is the driveway side. That shows the slope of the driveway going down to the back. This side is not visible, maybe a little bit of this up here in the very front. None of this is visible, and there's really no change other than just a little bit of this roof line here, which extends out. This side, This is the opposite side of this. This elevation also really has no change visibly other than the extension of this wall, and I'm sorry, the wall goes out this way. So these stairs are existing. Going down to the patio, this wall squares off to the back here, and the roof covers that area.
What's that?
This is an existing balcony. This is a little cantilever that goes over the bathroom on the first level.
Existing?
No, part of the addition.
Proposed.
It's this little pop-out right here. That's only on this level.
So what I'm seeing is the deck beyond. So this is the pop-out, and then this is the deck beyond?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay. And show us the open space, please.
Is there, let's see here. So this is the plot plan. It didn't quite get updated, but this is the updated open space after I had a meeting on Monday with Stephanie. So the conforming portion is this back area here, and this is 20 by 45. It's 20 by 50, less this little curve for the driveway. The only other usable open space, not counting the front, is basically this area here, which is another 588 square feet. However, it's not 20 feet wide. It goes from about 11 and a half feet wide to, it throttles down to about 10 feet up here near the front. I do have some pictures, though, showing this is all improved patio areas, so it is usable outdoor space. And this area out here is basically a little piece of lawn and another lower patio here.
Okay.
So we're short a couple hundred feet of the required 1250.
Okay, thank you.
Those are the pictures of the
side yard.
yeah.
And the back, and the rear yard.
I think there was there three? I think there were three sheets.
Okay.
Oh, they're printed on the back side.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay. That's it?
That's it?
What about the carport?
Oh, yeah. Detached carport shows right here. It's 20 feet off of the back of the property. So we decided that the best thing was to do a detached carport because we have a problem with a 10-foot, basically 10-foot wide driveway. Backing out onto State Street is like an extreme sport. It's
On a good day.
So this enables us to basically back out here, back the rear of the car in, and to go out straight, which is a much safer way to exit on.
What does the carport look like, please?
It's really quite simple. It has a little gable roof on it.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it has a solid wall on the back, a 4 and 12 pitch roof, and it's open on the sides, and it has a trellis element on the front.
It's actually technically a pergola, but
Yeah.
See, if you use the French word triage, then you won't get them confused.
I don't know.
Pergola's more poetic.
Is that all? Thank you. Open public comment. Mr. DeForest, comments, please?
Yes.
I'm trying.
Does this Or will this application include any history of the house, who designed it? It's 1927. It might have some, I don't know what kind of historic merit it has, but it's on a very important street, being State Street. And it's not clear from what has been presented in what the rear of the lot faces on. Does it face on an alley? Does it face on another person's property? How is this addition going to fit into the neighborhood? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak on this item? I'll close public comment to the commission. Actually, Nicole, could you shed some light on the status of the resource?
Well, it is listed on the potentials list, so it's on our, it'll probably come in one of your mass designation sections, but we're going alphabetical, so it probably won't be for a while.
Okay.
But I think that whole area, we designated one of the neighbors on Los Olivos for her Mills Act project recently. And that whole neighborhood is like a lot of one-story 1920s, as you said, 30s buildings, English vernacular, Spanish colonial. So that is all I have on it right now. But I can pull the old survey form, but those don't usually have much more than descriptions.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Was that Mr. Mahan?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. I'm having a hard time understanding these drawings. At sheet A101, is this the proposed site plan or the existing site plan?
It's the proposed site, yeah.
So on A220, where you have this long existing garage, what was that, a tandem garage originally?
I guess, yeah, if you had a horse and buggy and a Model T.
And how is that going to be used now?
That's going to be a workshop.
So originally, as the house sits now, there isn't the carport there.
Correct.
So you do have the open space there now.
Yes, I do.
Which you wouldn't be putting it there in the future, I see. Our description says that the FAR is 97%, but this document here says that it's 36%, 38%. Which is right?
Mr. Mahan, actually, I filled out I'll bring a sheet that actually says the FARs. This is 97%. That's just showing the range within the neighborhood. One of the requirements when you are a required FAR and you're over 85% is you show the 20 closest lots around you and show how you fit within the neighborhood and why you can go above 85% FAR. So I can go grab that sheet if you'd like to see the actual FAR number.
But the FAR is 97%.
Correct, it is 97%.
Thank you. I'm looking at sheet A601. It's the last page.
Yes, with the photos.
Yeah, the photos. Now, the existing photo shows I believe it's a living room area. The shed roof is, right here.
This one here.
The shed roof is coming right up to the edge of the roof, and then over there, it looks like it isn't. How is that happening if you're not making changes to the front?
That's just a problem of the rendering, I think. There is no change to the front of the property.
Well, what about this arched door here and this?
That remains. That's the front door, so you step up onto a porch. I think this just kind of is enhancing the shadow line. This front door is set back from the front of the living room.
So you're not changing this window, you're not changing any of that stuff?
You really don't want to include a drawing that's misleading us about
I agree. Very misleading. So tell me what's misleading on the back then is up there in the upper corner there, is this pop out?
Yes.
Is that the way it's going to really look?
that's the way that the rendering is indicating that it would look, yes.
The-
It pops out 3 feet.
And the,
Cantilever 3 feet.
And it's on the drawing that way.
just, if I may just make a comment to the applicant, what we really like to see is an elevation that's an existing elevation, and then down below the proposed elevation, so that we can compare them. And we don't, it's hard to understand all of these if we don't have it drawn that way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That was a question, comment. So any other question, comments?
Mr. Chair?
Mr.
No.
Grumbine?
Yeah, so along the line to the balcony. So in your drawings, you showed it as existing balcony. In the 3D SketchUp model, or whatever this is, I'm looking at, is what I'm looking at the same thing?
These are this is the existing shot from the same angle as this rendering.
Okay.
So,
So this whole gable will come forward, is that right?
yes, that gable will just come forward.
And then that balcony there, is this balcony? Oh, is it this?
This balcony, this is how it looks
okay.
existing from the back of the house now.
Okay.
You know, with all of these various little porch elements that were here. And then this is how it will look when the gable end comes forward. So it was very awkward to do anything with a gable end on that cantilever. So we basically just picked up the design cue from the shed roof on the front of the house, basically duplicating that look.
Okay. Okay. The doors, the elevations, and let's just flip to them real fast. Actually, we need to kind of keep a finger on. Is there any color photos of these? It's very difficult to read the black and white.
There were, you can look at them here.
Does it show up enough?
Sheet, which
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the eave conditions. Maybe zoom in there.
If they put it down on the table.
Yeah.
we don't really have any eaves. It's just a little kind of a crown molding there. No
There you go.
overhang.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that gives me a kind of a better idea of what that condition is. So then, here, do you want to pull that? Yeah. So now, flipping to trying to figure out what is new and what's existing in terms of the windows and doors.
You're looking for the elevator.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so and this all. Okay, so
that shouldn't even have been put in.
Is this? Yeah, sorry, pointer. Yeah. Okay, so existing.
Existing.
Doesn't work.
This is existing.
Yes.
I
That goes out onto the patio, as you can see from the.
I thought on your plan this looked like it was proposed.
No.
Okay.
So the
That's
question
new.
is that this is existing?
Yeah.
You don't have any photos of that, do you?
With the offset in the top of the door, it exists like that?
That
I think
doesn't
it's
seem right.
molded over, so it all looks the same in the photos.
And your drawing should show that.
There, you're kind of looking at the edge of the door.
Those
Those are the two French doors and two opening side lights.
So with that header, it looks like it's going straight across.
It sure does.
Yeah.
So, okay, so, and then in plan, I'm gonna find that now. 'Cause I was reading it as a proposed.
That's this opening right here.
It's just the darkness. Okay, so that seems to reads kind of strong as a, okay. So this is just all existing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then can we keep going for the windows? And elevation's probably easiest. So this is existing, this is new, this
Yes.
is proposed.
Yes.
And then what about these?
I don't understand the drawings.
These are all existing.
These are all existing. And they're existing without mullions, without any dividers here?
Is this existing or is it new?
Yes. Yes, they are existing without mullions.
Okay.
These windows have been.
I think
these
it's
windows
new.
have
Are
been-
new.
no,
But
this
I don't
window
get
was
this.
replaced. This is a new window. These, I believe, are original. This was like a picture window, so that's original.
Okay.
I mean,
I
that
just
makes-
haven't really
makes
gotten
sense.
that far in
So
doing
there's
a window endorsement.
that.
Mr. Grunbein, do you mind if I interrupt you?
Sure, go right ahead.
I feel like these drawings are not communicating what your project is trying to do. I hear and I see people are being frustrated with the drawings and not being able to distinguish what is going on, what's existing, what's proposed. The elevations certainly need more labels on them. So I'd like to continue this indefinitely, or 2 weeks, whatever your pleasure is, for more information. Pardon me for interrupting you, Commissioner Grunbein, but I also feel that the elevation of the carport is insufficient. I have no idea what materials you're using. There's no labels on anything. So it's almost an incomplete set of plans and very difficult for us to review. So I'm going to suggest that we do an
If you-
2 week or
if you-
indefinite.
if
Well, I'd
you
like-
wait a minute, please.
Sure. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to continue with comments if possible.
Yes.
Okay.
I had a few too.
So now, are we? I was just starting on questions.
Go ahead with go ahead with the comments.
I was just
I'll
trying to
roll
move it
into
along, that's
comments.
all.
I think there are a lot of issues with these drawings, and with just the general set to be able to compare from the neighborhood. To be able to have color photographs, to have aerials, to have things kind of laid out from the big picture, and then all the way down. A lot of site photos so that we can see really what are existing conditions. And as for example, when I said, what was your eave condition, and you said, there isn't one, and this shows that there isn't one, but on the photographs there actually is. It's a very subtle little OG, or it looks like, I can't quite tell from how far away it is, but there is an eave condition. It's just a very tight one, and the gutter might be on some spots or not, but there's going to be a gutter, and where should it be and where should it catch? So the drawings are at a very incomplete level, and they also need to visually tell us what's existing, what's proposed, and to be accurate. To have the front door not having your Tudor arch on it is, that's sort of this is like the perfect sweet summary of the house right here, and you're missing it. So I think there just needs to be a lot more before we can even really get into the depth of it, because I think when you show more, there's going to be a lot of cues for you to work from on this house as well.
That sounds like a
But
comment.
just,
What was your comment about
just-
this here?
it's not drawn accurately.
There's a plaster Tudor arch. There's a flattened pointed arch. That's your front shot.
It's just a wood molding. It's not a plastered arch.
The front picture of the house.
Hard to tell from the black.
IS1?
It's actually
That's
a
recessed.
piece of glass, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
well,
piece of glass over the-
there's a
the
plaster
shape.
return to it, and this is a plaster
There's a
shape.
whole nose, and it's a wood molding.
So you see
And
that
should be
shape?
shown on the drawings.
Yeah. So this shape is very, very. This
That's
is the perfect summary of your entire house right here in that shape, and that shape's missing.
This whole composition,
Yeah.
chimney,
Also, that
the
front
header
window, that front
across, the
window,
little
the
vents,
beam and everything.
the beam and everything.
And your vertical light. Look at your beams. Even has that little flare, slight flare, like a craftsman.
Yeah, it's like a built-in lentil
Yeah.
over the top of the windows.
Yep. So all those details are part of that language, and all those details are missing on the drawing. So that's where we need to start with things so that we can kind of help comment on the rest of your proposal. But your beginnings need to be dialed in first.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Drury.
I think that the idea as presented is fine. I think it's possibly something that an architect building the house nowadays would say. We wouldn't have these little insets. We'd have more living space and so on. But and at the risk of being redundant, it lacks poetry. And I think all that stuff that Commissioner Grumbine was talking about, all the details on the front elevation, on the State Street elevation, need to be incorporated into this design because it's a really lovely house. And as presented on the back elevations, it's very sterile. And I know it conveys a sense of the volume, but it doesn't convey a sense of style. So that's what my take on it.
I would actually expand on that. This is not an appropriate change to this house. The characteristic of this style is that this little broken up little box with all kinds of little roofs playing off each other. They're very picturesque. There's great poetry in them. And there is precious little but essential detailing as part of this style. So your drawings need to express that style, first of all, accurately. They also, you don't just fill out a box in this style. It's not a shoebox. It's this little cottagey thing that appears to have been built over a period of time. So you need to sort of, rather than make that wall straight, make that wall suck in or go out, one of the two. You have to respect sort of the original box and the change to that original box. The cantilever in the back is problematic. This just wouldn't happen in this period of architecture. It wouldn't be that style of wrought iron rail. You wouldn't have had that little doghouse sort of like sticking out off this thing like a wart. Whoever was drawing this didn't know the style of architecture at all because, if anything, the middle one would have been taller than the side ones. So you need to go tell your architect to pay attention, to draw the building accurately.
It's right there.
And to give more sensitivity to the addition. We will need better and in color, please, or not just totally black, existing photographs. Accurate drawings showing us either an E or a new on the windows to know what's existing or new and to bubble in the addition area. And we need photographs of the neighborhood.
And more information on the carport, more detail and information on the
And
carport.
I would suggest you completely reconsider the design of the carport. It is just.
Mr. Chair, this isn't shown on the drawings either. This little window with a little something over it. I can't quite make out what it is.
All over it, probably. Yeah, this is the sort of thing that makes this architecture really delightful. And there's none of that. I mean, even how this was all put together. These windows have side lights and divided lights. So they just need to pay attention.
I think it'd be considered essential, actually.
It is essential. I mean, it's not unusual that they would have this big piece of glass, but it's also not unusual that the side lights, if they're original, were leaded. In this case, they are probably leaded, not true divided light.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Perhaps I could suggest he could use the historic resource design guidelines on the addition section.
Perfect.
He could go through each one of those and it'll help guide the project. And they're online, or I can email them to you.
And just to add one little piece to that, because I know it's going to come back as well for, I think that probably the most helpful thing you can do, or your architect can do, is to look at, with this style, look at how an addition would actually happen. Because you wouldn't just plunk this thing on. If you went all the way down to the ground, that would make sense visually. Or if you had some sort of visual support, maybe. But with this style, that doesn't really happen very much. So I think the biggest thing is find a bunch of examples of this style house, do and work with that language to try to get the additions to work and the pieces to work. And the carport, the same thing. You're not going to find a carport like that at all. If you do find something that's kind of open and that, it's going to look totally different if you're going to go for this style.
It's going to look like a pergola.
Yeah.
With a roof on it.
So I think the best thing to do is just try and find a bunch of examples and bring the examples that you find as your inspiration image that are historic, that kind of work with that. As I think it'll help with the design and it'll also help to visually explain where you're going with it.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Mr. House.
I would echo those comments, and I would say the problems with this presentation boil down to detailing and drafting. I mean, there's just a lot of drafting inaccuracies. I have yet to find what the pitch of the roofs are. I know there's a pitch break, but I don't know what either of those are. And I think that the back of it, of the existing, kind of reflects that there's been an accretion of additions and changes over the years, and you need to borrow from the best character defining details on the building, not just something that happened somewhere on it. And you cited that on the back, the pop-out was a solution that was inspired by something similar on the front, but on the front there is a poetry to it, there's a composition to it, but on the back it's non-designed, it's just slapped on there. So your designer needs to really study this style of architecture so that he understands the appropriate massing and detailing. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for indefinite continuance for the applicant to reconsider and improve the drawings.
I think,
Are
we comments only, or are we?
Yep.
Yes, it is comments only.
Comments only.
So that's an appropriate motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion for indefinite continuance.
So when you're ready to come back, you need to contact staff. Is there a second?
I did.
Seating second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
You're getting there. Keep working on it.
I think
Thank you.
individual designer didn't understand what kind of detailing we're requiring.
You should take these, Mr. Wilson.
What they do.
You want this one?
Yeah, if you want them.
Want all these? Oh, God, not this thing again.
Our next item is 32 West
done this.
Carrillo Street.
Like a bad penny.
Our last item.
This was, I have the minutes from the previous meeting.
Penny.
That's nice.
Coming back.
That's nice. Here, you read them. You read them.
$3 bill.
This was last here on
Can I have the meeting come to order, please?
Yes, yes.
July 12, 2017. It got project design approval with the following comments. The commission considered the project a gift to the city in its reduced size, bulk, and scale, and a nice addition to this important corner. The commission supported the use of slump stone on certain walls and portions of the building. Provide a photograph or sample to show texture. The commission would like some commemoration of the site as a former Greyhound bus station, but if the signage is not original, it needs to conform to the current sign ordinance. Reconsidered this design of the sandstone wall at the restaurant area to better relate to the building and the restaurant area. Study some protection of the restaurant area from microparticles generated from street traffic. The tree grates shall be unfinished and untreated cast iron. Reconsider the flat roofed area for material that looks more natural and is more appropriate to the guidelines. Restudy the columns on the north and south elevations. Restudy the recommendation for a balcony on the corner. Make an effort to improve the planter area surrounding the existing ficus trees and the pruning thereof. The copper trim is to be patinaed. The motion was made by Drury. It was seconded by Mahan. It was a 7-0-1 vote. House abstained. The motion did carry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, before we get started on this item, I wanted to clarify this is an in-progress review, but they are in compliance with the city stormwater management program, so it technically is actionable. It's not comments only.
Oh.
It is in progress, though, so if they want to take action, they can, but yeah, they can also come back for final.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So we are, Brian Cornell, Elizabeth Wentling. We are assuming that this is in progress review, so hopefully we'll get enough momentum to move along. So let me address the comments. I provided a little photograph. This is the bank building that's at the corner of Carrillo and Anacapas.
Robobank.
Yeah, so it's one example. This actually really doesn't have, I've got to confess, this is slumpstone, but it doesn't really have a slurry on it. So I think with a slurry, it's going to look better than what these photographs show, but it's the best example
Louise Boucher hated that building.
Is the historic museum?
Slumpstone with a slurry on it
Is the historic-
is the parking lot wall on Anapamoo
That's right.
Street with the little cat on top.
A parking lot.
Henry
wall.
Lenny's
Right.
little cat.
Right.
Arch.
There you go.
Yeah, that's Slumpstone with a
Anapamu's walk
slurry.
through.
Huh?
Anapamoo.
Oh, on
Yeah,
between
on Anapamoo, yeah.
Chapala and State
Yeah.
Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
That little cat there.
Yeah.
Okay, the Greyhound
Henry's cat. I
commemoration,
designed
which
the
is
wall. He'd
next.
put the cat
So
up,
this
stuck the
is
cat
what
up
we
there.
are proposing.
It was white at first,
We are
and somebody
proposing
painted
a
it black.
bronze signage here, which I'll go to the enhanced detail of that would face onto, would face onto Carrillo. And then on the side, we would have the outline of this in 1/4-inch square steel. Do you remember what page that's on?
What sheet are you on?
Well, I am on
Looking
right
for it.
now, I'm on A201, but I'm looking for
Where are you going?
the detail.
Detail. Sign detail.
201, is that it? Let him find it.
One more?
You didn't hand draw these all yourself?
And even if I had, I wouldn't remember the sheet number.
Okay.
So here's what we're proposing, that we would have that outline.
What number?
Sheet A614.
244.
We would have.
614.
614. Yeah. So that would have that
Boost.
that Greyhound logo that would just be standing out from the wall. And then that would be the sign that would face onto Carrillo with raised letters on a bronze plaque. So that is that proposal. The
614. 614.
The sandstone that we had in the front, we have just actually changed that to be the slumpstone, which made the most sense to us.
Did you show it to us in plan? I think there was more an issue with the plan than the material.
Yeah. Probably best to go to the landscape plan. So that is the shape of that wall. And then it does have planting.
Sheet L1.1.
It does,
one
the
of
last,
one,
the
L1.
last sheet on the set is the landscape plan. It does show on the site plan as well, but, so that is basically the U-shaped wall, so you would obviously see the returns, and then there is that planting in front that kind of relates to the comment below it, which is protection against microparticles. I really don't know what to do about that. I mean, we could make this planting higher, I suppose, but I wouldn't want to put any kind of a barrier on top of that, so I'm kind of at a loss on that comment, FYI. Shall I go through these, Mr. Chair? or
Go ahead,
shall-
if you're ready to, yeah.
The flat-roofed area, what we are proposing is to go with a metal standing seam. Now, I know you'd love that to be copper. I'm almost certain that I will have a client who will object to that being copper. So, you know, and there's also the comment about the patina of the gutters, and I'm not sure where we wanted to go there. I mean, to me, if I had my druthers, they'd be the brown. They'd go brown.
Brown, yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
they do. So I'm inclined to propose to you, so that I can put money into other things, that I would do a finish, a baked finish on that standing seam that would be the brown of a copper gutter, of a completed copper gutter, because you're really not going to, it's such a low slope, it's really not going to be visible.
You'll see it from the hotel across the street.
You will. That's true.
Shouldn't have made it so tall.
And that brings me to the columns here on this elevation, which was a concern. You know, we looked at this, we studied it, and I have to tell you that we think that this is okay. It's a nice little composition. It may not be completely rational, but that isn't necessarily what this architecture is. But it works for me, and it feels good. The detail on those columns, by the way, do you remember that sheet? Try sheet A6. 13.
613.
See if she's right. Ding, ding, ding. Correct. Yeah, so
there you can see, so we've got this nice little engaged round element. It would just be cut, you know, at the ends. There would be no detail except when facing it. And we think that that works. And on the corner, we just went back to keeping it very simple. It just, the balcony really was too much, and it kind of made it look like a nose with eyes. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's just simple, nice, and clean the way that we have it. We do have in this set larger detail sections, for example, at that wall, what's going on with the rafter tails, and you guys, I'm happy to have you peruse those. We are going to we've made the planter at the ficus as large as we can, you know, pursuant to what I need here as the minimum for the sidewalk. And the copper trim, we talked about that. Although I'd rather let it go natural than trying to do anything to it.
How about the tree grate? You're just leaving that
Yeah, I mean,
natural?
we're
Okay.
obviously going to do that.
I figured, just checking off my
I don't know that
list.
the drawings just right now
Probably
actually
not.
spec that, but we'll make sure that that is the case.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a few minutes to look through the drawings, everyone.
Brian, on
Wait a second. Give us all a chance to go through them.
I'm just trying to understand a detail on here. So
Okay,
it's
you
just-
can ask questions when it comes time to ask questions.
Okay.
Please.
And not before.
Not
Commissioner
before.
House, not before.
Because I want to focus.
Focus, man, focus.
Much better than me continuing to talk.
Exactly.
Reminds me of your first meeting.
Are
He
you
knows how to
Irish?
distract me. And
Only half Irish and I can talk. Yeah. Ryan Carnat.
I do know that my ancestors were, you know, forced out early, like they came in the 1700 way, which means they were definitely criminals or something.
Brothers and criminals. Yeah, like most of us,
Not
like
all of
his family. Oh, yeah. Notorious bog trotters, right?
This another building somewhere behind that?
Maybe another building.
Okay.
Right.
Where is that? This.
What this doesn't show is that this column is proud, is, you know, there's space in between. It looks like it's right up to it, but it's actually
This
got
here,
space.
that doesn't show anywhere else.
No?
I think that's this chimney behind it.
Behind it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see, okay. Yeah.
What are we doing, Mr. Chair?
I just want, I mean, this is
sitting here in
almost
confusion.
at final.
We're
so
moving
I'm
paper.
just looking to see if I really like everything so far. It's my last chance to change it.
Are we in questions or?
We will be in just a minute.
Pardon me?
We will be in just a minute. Well, we need public comment, but then we will be.
And you're in line behind me.
Yeah, Mr. House is first.
You have to get in the queue.
Elizabeth has been working exhaustively on these drawings, so make sure anything you see, you point out to her. It's good lessons. see, we sort of borrowed that here.
I'll open public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Mr. DeForest, comments, please?
Yes, I would like more trees. I think this has gotten, it seems to me when the Greyhound bus station was there were more trees than there, and I see 2 are being removed. So I would encourage the commission to ask for more trees.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close public comment. Mr. House, questions?
Yes, I'm concentrating on A200 and reconciling the key numbers to the typical finishes and colors, and I'm just confused by that because it looks like it all shifted by 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, for instance,
the keys are off.
Okay.
Yes, you've found the flaw,
Okay.
Steve.
So on the west elevation, you have C pointing to the parapet, and that should be B, which is a clay tile. Oh, no. I'm sorry. So, are you following what I'm pointing out?
No, I already, that's,
Okay.
the notes, these notes
Okay.
need to be fixed.
Okay. All righty. And then also, I notice on the 2 slump block callouts, it says a plaster fog coat, which fog coat is very thin, is usually sprayed on with a Hudson sprayer. So you're talking more about the 20-30 grit fine sand color coat brushed on or something?
Our owner actually has done this treatment recently. It's one of the things that got us here, and he really likes to use a thick fog coat to do it. So that's what we're requesting, is that method.
Yeah, because the Anapamu, I think, is a 20-30 grit sand that's brushed on there or something. But, you know, in my experience, fog coat you can't put on very thick because it doesn't really have much in the way of aggregate in it, so it just hazes, gets crazed cracks in it and stuff like that. But if you've talked to an installer that can do that, then that's fine. But I just wanted to be clear on it.
Okay.
That's it for now.
Okay. Other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mahan.
Is the roof on the round element, is that a round roof? It's drawn like it's segmented. You see what I mean?
It is drawn as it's segmented, but no, it's designed as a round roof. So it will. So that means that the roof tiles will sort of taper as it goes up.
At the corner of Hope and State Street, they did it, and they did a very good job. I mean, the tile gets smaller as they go up.
Exactly. I'm not sure I like that you have that building has sort of ridges or rims, tiers, which I don't love. I'd like to keep it more uniform.
Anyway,
those tiles will have to be cut.
It's conical.
Yes.
The stairs on the north elevation, I mean, you at the second floor they're stepped stucco, and then they go to iron coming down. Why did you change?
No, what you're seeing there is the wall beyond. So if you look at the next page.
I think he's talking about this transition from this to that.
Oh, is that what he's talking about?
Yeah.
Because we can see that better here.
Sheet
You're talking
A201.
Which page is that?
A201, next sheet.
Is that what you're talking about, Bill?
Yeah, that's it. There's steps and then it's iron. Why is it?
It came from these stairs sort of mimicking one another, but we had this idea of extending that tile out, and so rather than sloping this, we just thought we would step it. I don't know that I have a real good reason, other than it just
I mean,
felt.
we're in, if I could slip into comments, I might. might suggest that there would be a simplification to either be iron or stucco, but not a little bit of both. But where's a pointer?
Right here.
If you, usually when you do this thing here, this railing here exposes itself as you go on up.
Yeah.
The required railing will expose
No,
itself.
you're absolutely right. That we haven't studied that because I can see right here that it would.
Yeah. So.
Oh, there's a landing here, Bill. That's.
Oh, there's a landing there, and then it goes
there is
up
a
like that.
landing. So there it is. There's the stair in.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In reverse, so you can see what happens with the rail. So we did look at that. But again, I think the idea was to kind of complete this. When we think about this three-dimensionally with the mass as it goes around, we need to look first at this elevation here. Where am I? Yeah, but in concert with, sorry.
It'll be the west elevation you'll be seeing it.
We should see it on this.
While you're doing that,
here.
what's this
So it's-
material below this?
That is tile, so that is.
Glaze color?
Yes.
Terracotta?
And the intent here is for this to be kind of a cobalt blue. We didn't get the sample in time, but we are getting the sample. And this tile is intended to be the same, correct? On that little elevator element. And this, we just really want to be very simple. It's just something that you're really not going to see much of, so we didn't want to over-detail this. But, that is going to be, that's fairly visible. And again, then we're emulating that again on the other stair as it ascends down on the other side, which is beyond the little building, the small building off of Carrillo. Sorry, I'll use the pointer.
No.
Thank you.
Someplace else.
Mr. Chair, is Mr. Mahan done with questions?
Are you done, Mr. Mahan?
Yes, I guess so.
On the wall, the patio wall, restaurant wall, whatever, last sheet, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What have you done to change that other than the material? You didn't change the configuration at all, did you? What?
So we pulled it back, we pulled it more of a return on it.
Can I make my comment on that? Because I do need to leave in about 6 minutes.
No.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. That wall still seems like it's disjoined from the building. And I think a lot of it has to, well, it shouldn't seem that way. It should be part of the building. It should look like it's part of the building. It should look like it's designed, like it's planned. I think part of it is this, either, connect it to the building or move it further away. It just feels awkward. That 4'1" dimension there is not. It's just kind of floating out there. And I think maybe
Look at it in elevation.
Maybe giving that wall some more bulk to it by either putting, some plinths on the end of it or something. It just seems like it's not. I see. So it's lining up with.
It's not.
It's not. Yeah.
What if we just got rid of it?
That'd be fine with me.
I'm really not sure.
Because I think, it just.
I think it makes more sense to eliminate it.
I do too.
Yeah,
It just
I'm
doesn't.
really not, I mean, I think it's kind of a holdover, and
Yeah.
I'm really not sure that there's really any compelling reason. I don't know what's going to happen here, we don't-
I would rather see just the planting there and no wall.
Is it at sidewalk level?
No, it's
raised.
It's back of sidewalk.
No, but is it the floor level raised or is almost
A
at?
little bit.
Okay,
There
not
is a
much.
slight raise here, but not much.
So not like you'd be looking up and.
It's
the
not.
other
It's
side of
not a
tables.
retaining wall.
No.
Yeah,
very
Mr. Cannell, I think just eliminate it altogether.
Yeah, if the plants are big enough, it should fill in.
Mm-hmm. It'll be a natural wall. So yeah, but keep the plant material.
But a
Thank you,
good
Mr.
size,
Chair.
full-size plants would
You're
work.
welcome.
Mr. Chair?
The planting that's there.
Kalanchoe bayarensis, it gets tall, but it doesn't, it's not bushy to the ground.
It's kind of leggy, isn't it?
Well, if it got taller, then it might, it might do the work of the
Covering the wall.
microparticles.
Yeah, but I would
It's got those
suggest that there be some
hairs on it.
underplanting underneath the bayarensis, just because the bayarensis gets more of a trunk, a bare trunk. It's a very attractive trunk, but,
So are you suggesting a different, an underplant material?
underplant material under the Kalanchoe bayarensis.
You expect me to spell that?
Hedge material?
I do speak Latin.
BEHE
Yeah.
Shrubbery?
Under
RENSIS.
the shrubbery.
Proposing shrubbery.
BEHAR.
ER, I think, isn't it?
No.
Never mind.
Yeah,
Mr. Drury, you had a comment,
I had a question.
question?
And so those on A200, the south elevation, those pillars on the second floor, your proposal is just to bring them straight down and then curve them into the wall below.
Per that detail, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't just come down and curve. It's actually an articulated shape. Did you see that?
No.
Okay, that's
No.
on, what did we say it was? 614?
I think it's on the last page, isn't it?
613?
613?
613, way back. Detail number 17.
Oh, so there
that's
is
the
that little
profile.
ridge and then the curve. I was gonna
So it
just
has
make a
that-
more interesting shadow.
Yeah, and
That's-
you can see it's not, it's got a nice little over the, whatever you.
Perfect, thank
what do
you.
we call that?
There's a name for that.
There is a name for it, Bill, you know.
Repoussé.
When you bring the,
Disneyland.
Yeah, Disneyland.
Je ne sais quoi in French.
Okay.
Wait, that was my comment. Mr. Chair?
Comments?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Okay.
Okay, only a few.
You only have three.
Okay, I'll get three. A401. A401, let's go this way.
A401.
We don't have, oh wait, there's 410.
A4.
410?
That way, 01.
No, there's nothing.
Oh, or maybe 410. Is this it? That was the-
410?
Yeah, it is it. Okay, yeah, 410, sorry. I was looking through. What is this, what are these pickets doing? Is that an area you can fall through?
No, because it's below 3 risers.
No, but it goes up.
where's the detail? Yeah, in other words, it will be, it is the same as.
Be the same as A613?
Yeah. What we were
Okay.
looking at, that's right. So it's the same as.
Oh, okay, so there's not one picket per step?
No.
Okay.
Well,
That's
yeah.
nice, but
Really correct?
okay. All right, that was the first question. A422, I think.
A422.
The other way.
Yeah, you're right, 422.
Under your thumb.
You're right.
Yeah, okay, so now, I mean, this might just be a graphic thing, but is this just tile going the other way? What's,
That's a graphic thing.
okay.
The tile going the other way.
Brian, he's
creative, but he's not that creative.
Getting a little eccentric with the,
Isn't that the way the water likes?
Yeah, if you wanted to run inside.
That's right. And speaking of water running inside, could we go to your the column elevation and then detail? So let's see, right? Yeah, A200. Yeah. So looking at the elevation, I see your gutter going in, and I saw the column detail for it, which I don't have the number for.
12A613.
Yeah, which still needs a little bit of waterproofing work to it.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
Yeah.
So, and I guess the question would be, do you feel that the having the gutter go interior on a column is because there's only that much wall there, is kind of, yeah, it's a big amount of column, but it's a column, but having the gutter go in do you have any problem with that? Aside from the actual water issues later? Only because it's not a big solid wall where if typically you'd have a gutter going to the wall, you feel like it could be still built of stone or brick or something. And here it feels like you wouldn't have that little brick or stone and then put a gutter into it as well and then have space within it. So
Normally, there'd be a collector there, and the downspout would come into a collector.
Well, although we've seen that detail, we've done that detail, and it's clean, it's nice.
And George Washington Smith and others will do it. But in terms of a column, I don't know if I've seen that in a column.
Yeah, because I'm doing it, the reason I think really we're doing it here is we're doing it here at the end.
Yeah, and which that makes a little more sense because you feel like there's some mass there that it can cheat and run a gutter in. It just seemed a little bit. You might have a great example that.
Well, and
totally
I'm not
proves me
sure,
wrong.
frankly, it's so little roof. I'm not sure we don't have enough to handle it just with that downspout anyway.
Okay, because that one just
I
bugs me a
would be
bit.
inclined maybe then we get rid of that, just let it turn the corner. It's not, without it turning the corner here, it's a little funny anyway.
Yeah, and it makes a lot more sense here on the big walls where you can just go in and that's fine. Okay, and then fully into the comments. All in all, I think it's just about there. I would say that I'm going to pick on that detail, turning the corner, because we're turning up and around. When you turn the corner, it really is kind of feel a little marshmallowy.
Which one?
That corner column, because if you just had it go down and die, and then you turn the corner, it all feels like it's coming up. But because you have it coming back up, and then you turn the corner with it, it's going to kind of feel a little fluffy.
If you look at it in plan, it's not up against the building.
No.
That column.
That corner?
Yeah, it's not up against the building. It's
no, it's floating. It's
floating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where on the plan, Bill?
Right there.
Which
A121. In elevation, it looks like it's right up against the building, but it isn't. There's space around it.
Oh,
the building comes back this way.
Talking about there.
I'm talking about
But
this.
you're talking about here.
I'm talking about this.
You're worried that when that miters,
with miters, it's going to curve up on this side, and it's going to curve up on this side, and it's going to look weird and tube-like, turning a corner.
No.
You don't think it'll look weird? Mm-mm. You think it'll be?
I think with the miter, it'll be nice.
It'd be quite lovely. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see a problem.
I'll look forward to
copying
it then. I called it a marshmallow. I don't know about that. I don't think I can copy it anymore.
That might be
a nice
That's
fluffy.
a new word.
If it was Henry, we'd put a little
Architectural term.
cherry face
It's
on
not poetic, but it's fluffy.
That's right.
I'd add a few comments. This is a very nice building, and what's nice about it is it's a very simple building. It's not trying too hard to look Hispanic. We see a lot of those lately. But what detailing there is really kind of interesting and lovely, and perfectly done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I particularly like the screen on A612. The Mushrabaya abbreviated. That while it may not be copied from something, it is definitely inspired by something, and is really an elegant design. Very nice, and I also like the fact that it was copied in a minor way on the handrails, and makes for a very interesting handrail design. And as for the change from a step to a tile, I kind of think it makes it interesting. It's one of those illogical things that one finds in this architectural style. Yeah, that shows it best. I mean, I might suggest that there be an intermediate step because this step feels really high. You know, either one there or one there. And not just one great big 6 foot or 5 foot drop. Might make that feel more comfortable as far as a visual image.
Mr. Chair, like a drop about the same distance?
Intermediate drop, either there or cut out of the one above. It would seem, have we given this project design approval?
Correct,
We have.
Mr. Chair. The applicants are just looking for in-progress comments at this point in time.
And we'd love to go to consent when we're, for the final set, if that's.
We have an action?
I think there, well,
it's comments
we have given final approval on a lot less drawing. And this seems to be fully detailed and no major issues.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take final. Don't get me wrong. I know, right?
Mr. Chair, they need to supply the final submittal checklist if they want final approval.
We're
So,
not agendized.
yeah,
Okay,
there's no
okay,
agendas
so
for that.
Ms. Arias.
Studies on microparticles indicate that long-term exposure is detrimental to humans. You cannot cough it out. It stays in your lungs. Therefore, the restaurant is, you can eat there or not eat there. You don't necessarily have long-term exposure. However, your office windows upstairs and the people that occupy those office windows could have long-term exposure if your windows can be opened. Are those windows sealed shut?
Ms. Arias.
I'm sorry.
This is not, health issues are not in our purview, and by weighing in on them, we are assuming a liability as architects to be responsible for them. I'm sorry.
I have a responsibility as a scientist to make comments, and I do so in good conscience. I'm sorry you can't see that, and if you're so worried about being sued, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Please note Ms. Arias left the meeting.
I would appreciate if my comments were included in the minutes, as I leave in disgust.
Please so noted. Back to the commission. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Make a motion for a indefinite continuance?
Come back on consent.
Correct.
So
Do that.
final approval.
We can give the final approval right now.
Continue to the consent calendar for final.
Okay. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
With support of all of the design as proposed, with the suggestion of removal of the wall along, the short wall along Carrillo.
And the addition of more mature plants to establish a hedge.
Yes, more mature plants in the planter in front of it, and the addition of additional plant material, ground cover, below that biomass.
And then.
The marshmallow can stay.
The only thing I was study the elimination of the one scupper.
Mr.
The only
House.
thing I was going to add was to request that it, final on consent, you look at screening and mechanical equipment on the roof. 'Cause
Screening of mechanical.
That the mechanical equipment be
Yes.
indicated and adequately screened.
And then finally, Brian, you might take a look on A610 details 2 and 4. I don't think you mean to have the gutter hanger penetrate the bottom of the gutter. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Details 2 and 4 on A610. Yeah, yeah.
It's an overflow device.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a funny one.
Right there.
Instead of the strap across the top of the gutter. It could get built that way, and you'd be in big trouble.
I've seen it that way.
Have you?
Yeah, they gasket the,
Okay.
yeah, sure they leak, but
Yeah.
There's a
adds
hanger
water
at the
drips
top.
on the building.
That's
I have a suggestion on that.
To consider the detailing of
Gutter
detail 02 on A610.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Vania.
On that issue, because it's near the Morton Bay or the big tree, you might want to screen that gutter because it's going to fill up with foliage and create additional problems.
The ficus.
Yes, ficus.
Yeah, screen the gutters.
A suggestion to screen the gutters.
No,
The
the reverse
intermediate
tiles.
step at the stair on the west,
Oh, that.
on the partial north elevation.
Step on the north elevation stairway. Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chair, I apologize. Was it was a 2-week continuance to consent or an indefinite continuance to consent?
Make that. That's not all you have to do.
No, you have to fill it, your
And
indefinite.
we need the full set. We need all the consultant drawings and mechanical.
Yep, all right.
And we did, by the
Not
way.
doing anything this weekend, huh?
We did do some 3D views of the mechanical equipment.
I'm sure you have.
So, 2 weeks?
Indefinite?
Yeah,
2 weeks.
2
Okay,
weeks.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Nice project.
Thank you, yeah, beauty.
I hope you change your rendering on the street sign there, because that looks early on, so if
Just put on there, no tickets issued.
That's 2 hours earlier than last time. Steaming and boiling for a very long time. We are adjourned.